Hello and welcome. My name is Christopher Puto, and I'm the Dean of the Opus College of Business at the University of St. Thomas in sunny, warm Minnesota. I would like to thank each of my fellow deans for joining us this morning to discuss high-quality, high-value MBA programs. This event is the first of its kind in what we hope will be a series of online discussions among business school deans. Our goal is to foster a lively and productive conversation that gives each of you an opportunity to showcase your own experiences and perspectives. Before we begin, I'd like to ask each of our participants to introduce themselves. We'll begin with Dean Carini and then Dean Weiss, and we expect Dean Ogilvie from Rochester Institute of Technology to be joining us shortly. So, Dean Carini, give us...
Thank you, Chris. My name is Gary Carini. I serve as Associate Dean for Graduate Business Programs at Baylor University. Within our program, we certainly are in charge of the Executive MBA program, MBA. We are about to launch an online MBA program, which the online issues may come up, as well as accounting, tax, economics, information systems. Within that, I have been at, just by way of introduction, been Associate Dean for about 10 years, graduate of the Wharton School, in my area of teaching and research is global strategy.
Dean Weiss?
Thanks, Chris. I'm Ira Weiss, Dean of the Poole College of Management at North Carolina State University. I have been in this position for just going on 10 years. As the Dean, I'm responsible for our full portfolio of programs, including undergraduate, our different formats of the MBA, our Masters of Accounting program, and our economics programs that we also have here in the college, both Masters and PhD. And most recently, a series of one-year master's programs that we initiated within the last few years.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll jump right into our discussion. And since this is meant to be an open forum, everyone should feel free to chime in at any time. But if it makes sense to start with, I'll ask Gary Carini to start when I give the question, and then we'll follow with Ira, and then I'll add any comments that are necessary or appropriate. So first of all, in a time of rising education costs, how have you managed to keep tuition low at each of your schools? Gary?
Within this realm, the Board of Regents certainly sets the tuition. So I think we end up being on the side of really critically looking at our value. Within that, when realizing that students pay within our MBA program, certainly have scholarships, but as students pay, are they getting the degree that will prepare them for the future? So I think we're not on the side of as much, we don't have as much control over the sort of the price of the program from the shoes of the student, but where we do have freedom under AACSB guidelines certainly is what is the value, and one of the aspects of that is within our MBA faculty, we do get together frequently to look at learning goals. I get together with students at the end of the semester to hear from them on ways we can improve. We're constantly listening and really respecting just the notion of how do we get better, not adding more stuff. So I'm not a program guy. Like if we have more programs, we feel better about ourselves. But really looking at things differently can certainly go into examples. So sort of that value price notion, looking at raising the value given the price that we have.
Understood. Ira, how about your place?
Well, so we're State University, and I think one of the things that NC State is most proud of, I think the Princeton Review just came out within the last week or two, putting us number 4 in the country as best value, and that's for our undergraduate programs. And I think that's exactly what we've tried to do at the graduate level also, is really think about how we can position ourselves as a value-related, quality value-related program. We're in the company, as I think both of you know, of 2 other, if not 3 other, highly prestigious universities in our neighborhood. and at least 2 of them I would not consider value pricing. So we've really put ourselves into a position where our MBA program full-time is just around, for in-staters, around $40,000 for a 2-year traditional program. A significant number of those students will get financial support in terms of TAs and RAs. And so really the price of the program is significantly reduced below that. And again, as Gary indicated, we're very, very focused on providing the services that will allow our students to achieve their goals upon graduation. So a lot of work, a lot of folks engaged in the advising side of preparing our students for their careers, a lot of folks engaged on the careers side, engaging with employers, both from the internships as well as post-graduation careers. A lot of folks on the alumni side to create network in order for our students to feel part of a community and therefore be able to reach out to that community to really enhance their ability to not only get their first job, but to get jobs going forward from there. So again, very important for us to be able to provide those services and yet at the same time stay in what we call the value pricing mode.
Very good. Thank you very much. As I'm summarizing what I've heard, the key factor here is that it is simply not easy to create true value, and that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in every school to make sure that the program quality is at the highest level and the costs are kept at an affordable rate for students. The only thing I would add to what I heard in this discussion is we're fortunate to have had some benefactors who have provided a fair amount of scholarship money, and that's one of the other factors that allows us to keep our net tuition costs reasonable for our graduate students. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Now let's go on to something that are different ways to add value, and what I'm thinking of now is program flexibility. So offering full-time, part-time, evening, and online courses have different ways of adding value. Perhaps each of you could start by describing how you approach this if differently across the different programs and how you think they add value. Let's continue with Gary first and then go on to Ira.
I think from an MBA perspective, certainly our full-time program, which is here, and that's 3 semesters, and then our executive MBA program is 21 months, so just under 2 years, and then our online program that we're about to launch, we're looking at really a 12-month program, which would be incredibly rigorous. But within each of those, just again, the notion of value and the notion of how do we bring relevant information to students. Within our full-time program, I would say that there are two aspects that we're especially proud of. And Ira, you'd mentioned the career piece. For a few years, we've actually piloted on behalf of the business school our career management program. We now have dedicated faculty and staff associated with career management because we do see that as our role. On one hand, the reputation of the school is very, very important. In the school, each of us has a reputation that is in the marketplace. How do we maintain that reputation? So as we crafted our career management area, devoted staff, but then that means more one-on-one attention with students, more one-on-one attention to help them prepare where they are weak, help them strengthen where they are already strong, challenge them, communicate messages where students are very constrained by their ideas about what their career might be, that we broaden that. So if somebody were to say, I want to work only in this industry or only with this company, we're asking why, and then can we broaden that so that they have a landing place. We take that very seriously, and I think it's a challenge for each one of us. How do we prepare them for the future? There's some tried and true things within the classroom. There's the notion of integration. When you look at AACSB, you have critical thinking, creativity. How do we do all of that and prepare them for the career in a marketplace so they can add value immediately upon graduation? So we've thought seriously about that. I think from an output measure, looking at what is our placement at graduation 90 days out based on what rankings certainly look at, and we're very aware of that, and so that's important to us. I think the other aspect that goes with this is our real-world experience as a student. We partner with a company each semester to give our students, our MBA students, full-time here, hands-on experience with real live questions that the company is facing. This semester, it's Nike. We work with Fossil, H-E-B grocery stores. In our case, the State of Texas Comptroller's Office with investment decisions of public funds. So each student goes through that significant experience. We're working with executives. Coupled with that, our students are not only hearing from executives, but then flying to headquarters to make a presentation to those executives and be challenged. So we give them, again, hands-on, responding to questions from executives on the spot. That's part of the training that equips them, I think, to have successful careers. So just those two aspects, and I'll let others talk as well.
Sure, that's fine. Let's go to Ira, and then in a minute we'll introduce Dean Ogilvie. I see she's online. Go ahead, Ira. Talk about your different programs.
Right. Well, I'm going to tackle this question from a slightly different perspective. In terms of the flexibility, we see that putting a portfolio of programs out there that meet the needs of our students is critical. We are in an urban area. We are in a very educated area. Most of you are probably familiar with Research Triangle Park, which has about 50,000 employees today. IBM being the largest of those, about 12,000 in headcount. Cisco about 5,000 in headcount. So we're very concerned about how do we serve the community that really we are part and parcel of. Therefore, we have had the full-time MBA program. We're young, by the way. We're only 20 years old. Our full-time MBA program is started in 2002. But we also have had a professional MBA program very much from the get-go as well. About 7 years ago, we opened up a campus in Research Triangle Park so that we could have those students have access, flexibility, to all of our faculty, but not have to travel the 30, 40, 50 minutes to campus that would have to occur. That's been a highly successful venture for us. And then about 3 years ago, we started our online MBA. Again, because of the demands of the workforce of this area, was not feasible for students to come 2 nights a week, complete their degree in a timely fashion. And so that has become quite a popular piece of our portfolio and has not cannibalized at all the nature of the program. Students self-select. The ones who want to come face-to-face, come face-to-face. Students who want to go online, self-select. The next major change and innovation in the program is really going to be, as we started it this year, really create seamlessness between our professional MBA and our online MBA. When it was initially started, they were 2 separate programs. This year, we opened it up where students who want to take 1 course online and 1 course face-to-face have that ability. If they want to go 100% online, 100% face-to-face, we're just creating this seamless mode to create greater flexibility for our students and allow them to progress the degree as much as possible. And then the most recent innovation was a total restructuring of both the professional and online in a way where both degrees can be completed in 21 months. Students have become very, very focused on time to completion. Especially here in this area, there's some transiency. People are asked from the Ciscos of the world to go to San Jose, go abroad, from the GlaxoSmithKlines to go over to the UK. We have to be able to really deliver that high-quality degree in a time frame that meets the students' needs. And so we have really focused on time to completion, not compromising on quality whatsoever, really engaging with the students in a more intense way than we've ever done before. And so we feel this is really critical to how we will present our programs going forward.
Understood. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce Dean D.T. Ogilvy from the Rochester Institute of Technology, who's joining us, and give us a brief introduction of yourself, D.T., and then we're talking about program flexibility and the different programs that each of our schools offer. I'll let you chime right in.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to apologize for being late. We had a student issue that required my attention as well as my assistant dean, so that took more time than I hoped. But delighted to be here at the Hangout. I am the dean here at Saunders College of Business at RIT. I was previously at Rutgers University, at Rutgers Business School, as a professor. I had been associate provost and CIO at Rutgers Newark campus, and ran a center at Rutgers and started a center here actually for urban entrepreneurship. So in terms of program flexibility, actually what you were just talking about, Ira, is something that we just a couple of months ago decided to introduce here. We have an online executive MBA program that's been in existence for several years now, and we have it on campus that's been here like 13 years or more. And after I got here, I decided that what we really need to do is merge those two programs and make one Habit Your Way Pro. So it's nice to see that you're doing something like that. I was really even inspired by the MSTC program at University of Texas at Austin, the Masters of Science and Technology Commercialization, because that's what they do. I do have some resistance to the guy who runs the on-campus MBA program. It's sort of been his fiefdom, but we're working through those issues. He's gotten the provost involved to try to represent his side of the matter. So, in terms of program flexibility, the best, what's best for all the students, and also what's best for us financially, it doesn't make sense to really have two separate programs. We have professors being paid twice to teach the same course. We have separate trips and events and things like that, which is more costly, as you know. So bringing the two programs together makes not only fiscal sense, but it also makes service sense. So we're moving forward. My department heads are all for it, and some faculty may be inconvenienced. Part of the effort for our part, though, is also a number of our faculty were teaching the executive MBA on load, and we're going to move that to off load, which will give us more flexibility for our existing programs, our regular undergraduate and master's programs, and actually make the executive MBA program more of a tub on its own bottom, because they were being subsidized by having our regular faculty teach, because they were just paying for an adjunct in place of that faculty, which makes no sense actually. So we have that. We have a master's in science and finance. We have traditional MBA. We have an online program in finance. We're introducing a master's of science in computational finance, and then we have our traditional undergraduate programs. So we're trying to look at the curriculum, particularly in light of our new mission, which we just came up with. Since I've been here, we went through a whole strategic planning process and came up with a new mission. So now everybody's looking at, our curriculum committees are looking at revamping the curriculum to fit with our new mission. So
that's a good summary. If I've understand our discussion so far, the key in this to delivering value is to understanding individual student needs. Yes. And developing program offerings across the spectrum of our colleges to deliver that as best satisfies student needs. And here at St. Thomas, we have similar programs. I think we have the youngest full-time MBA program. Our first class graduated in 2005.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Our 10th class graduates this year, so we're excited about that. And we offer one of the larger evening programs, perhaps in the country. We have over 1,000 evening MBA students.
Wow.
Our executive MBA is moving along since 1976. So we're doing it. We've not really gone online as deeply as the rest of you have. We have a blended program in healthcare where people come and do a residential at the beginning and then do the rest of it online. But as I think we've all heard and seen, there are a variety of ways to deliver extraordinarily good content at very reasonable cost and flexibility. Let me shift gears a little bit now, and here's one for everybody. I'll again start with Gary on this. What can be done to better communicate to prospective students the value that an MBA can bring to their careers, and in particular the value that our schools bring? So I'll start with you, Gary, and we'll then to Ira and then to DT.
I think one of the aspects that we focus on with staff, so I have an admissions director that reports to our office, and it's really tailoring the message of what we provide to that student. So our approach, because we're not a large program, we have approximately 95 students enrolled in our full-time MBA program, certainly more in others. But as I hear the staff and our directors in the office right next to me, but as I hear those conversations, it is to the prospective student, why do you want an MBA? This is what we have to offer. This is what we could offer. So it's really tuning into that prospect instead of, if we were a large program, that would be impossible to do. And these are needs we can meet in some cases where a student has specific aspects that he or she needs in their education. We can't provide it. We're certainly honest about that. I think our enrollment stays low because of the standards on just admission standards that we all have and need to stay rigorous with that. So I think the first word that comes up is a tailoring rather than a boilerplate or codified. If you meet these aspects in a formula, then you have an admit decision. It's very much, and I've seen this just over years, how do we tailor our education to you so it allows for flexibility? Within the faculty, in my conversations with faculty, they are very, very aware of the incoming class. So we have basically 2 incoming classes within our full-time program. Those folks without without BBAs, so they need a pre-MBA sequence. We talk to the faculty about what that class looks like, what's their experience, and then as others come in with bachelor's in business administration and experience, we also talk about that, and those are actually integrated students. So I think tailoring to prospects and also communicating to faculty details about the students that they are teaching, so then they tailor their material, given the learning goals that we have, respecting AACSB, and then also equipping them for the future. So I think in each case, we certainly all are challenged by the task. As I'm talking, I'm challenged by how do we do all that? We get it done, but we know why we exist, and we know how we're delivering. I think from a very healthy perspective, we're willing to change, again, respecting our anchors, but we're willing to change the means with which we implement our programs. I was looking at curriculum today for our online program and saying, why are we spending this much time with accounting and finance? Well, because we need to. So in my mind, I was justifying this is why we're offering what we're offering. Again, respecting the anchors that we have, because I think they allow for a lot of freedom, frankly. And then with that, why are we doing what we're doing? So the advantage is I work with the faculty, staff, and then students who are on board with that notion. We've created the kind of culture where somebody can come up with an idea. And just as an administrator, I think a lot about, we can talk about this open door policy, but just as an administrator, if I help to create the kind of culture that allows for the generation of ideas, et cetera, interesting area that I'm looking at further and actually starting to do some research in. But yes, and we need to keep nurturing that. So again, what value are we providing? How do we do it? Who are the stakeholders involved in that? Companies, faculty as well, and try to get that done. So again, I apologize for a long response, but I'll turn it over.
That's all right. Ira, your turn.
Sure. NC State is a engineering dominant school, and so we have really adopted the kind of philosophy of the core competency of NC State and built that into our MBA program. That's played very well not only to graduates of NC State who come out with technical degrees, but the whole Research Triangle Park area is built up with IT, biotech, bioscience. It's highly, highly technical professionals working in this area. So our value proposition, our communication of why an MBA is we attract a very, very technically professional group of individuals, both in our full-time program as well as in our professional programs, and they really do need the kinds of experiential learning that takes place within our MBA program. So sure, we provide the core competencies of finance, accounting, marketing, supply chain, etc. But what we really do in all of our programs is get to a very experiential, hands-on level. Every one of our concentrations within the MBA has a core practicum associated with it. We have a set of centers and initiatives that have member organizations in which we do projects for them through these practicum courses. So we are very, very fortunate to have a lot of technical students. Matter of fact, 2/3 of our full-time program are technical, engineering, IT, computer science type of students rather than social science students, bringing them in, giving them core competencies, hands-on experience, working with companies, the ability to really see how their technical competencies can be driven to help organizations accomplish their missions is something that they did not have from their engineering perspective or the computer science perspective. And what we do is we round that out for them to understand how do you use those technical competencies to really create competitive advantage and how to really create accomplishment and mission for the organization. So it really is that selling point that we're able to communicate to a group of MBA students as to why the MBA.
Understood. DT? What's it like up there in Rochester in terms of communicating out to that marketplace?
Well, we're in an engineering university, so it's an interesting place as a business school to be because the engineering folks are the big dogs and we're the little dog. But what we try to do is take all of our students and we want to integrate business, technology, and design thinking so that our students can hit the ground. Well, they do actually already hit the ground running, making contributions from day one, but we also want them to be able to make wider concentrations. We look for enterprising students that learn something about entrepreneurship. So we start out with a program called the 1-2 program, and they start learning how to come up with an idea to bring the idea to fruition. Because I think similar to Ira, we want people who have technical competencies, but we want them to be able to really be entrepreneurial in their thinking, either to run their own companies, and we have a number of our students who start their own companies, or to help the companies that they work with to be more entrepreneurial. And we try to communicate that value. We do a lot of entrepreneurship programs and efforts. We have the #1 student incubator in the country, according to one organization. We have the typical, business plan competitions. We have accelerator programs, a variety of programs. So there's a big emphasis for our students on being entrepreneurial. And the value of that is creating wealth and making a difference to society by coming up with products and services, but particularly products, since we have this technical bent that can make a difference.
Thank you. I think it's interesting to look at the different perspectives that I just heard. We're perhaps a little bit more unusual in that our marketplace is unbelievably confused. We have, in our metropolitan area, over 20 different ways one can acquire a graduate business education and degree. And the prices range all over the board, and so the prospective students have a difficult time navigating that. So one of our goals is much the same as I've heard each of you. There are elements in the program that all of us seek to achieve, and that is taking talented students, providing real solid academic foundation, and then connecting everybody with the real world and going back out into the real world while students and working with companies to make a difference in solving problems that they have. It increases the whole overall learning experience tremendously, and that's where the value comes in. It's not just studying in a classroom. It's not just working outside and doing it. It's the combination that I hear from each of you in terms of how that works. All right, so
Chris, one minute. Let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I was struck by the session they had at the AACSB meeting, where they had the young woman talk about too many choices.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And one of the things that we have looked at as well is if you give people too many choices, it does become confusing. It's hard to differentiate, to determine, what the best path is. So I think we're thinking about, becoming, simplifying it so that it becomes easier for the students to choose. And I know there have been a lot of innovation. So I think even our curriculum committees are looking at meeting our mission. I think at least if I'm waiting to see what they come up with, but down the road at some point we need to make it a simpler choice for students so it's very clear that we attract the students we want that will benefit best from what we have to offer and let the other students go elsewhere. And I think there's a problem with, I'm a strategy person. So I think that oftentimes there's a problem that we always are trying to be everything to everybody and get every student, but that's not to our benefit. First of all, you have the retention issue, you have whether the student actually gets value or not. So if we can create a simple enough template so that students know this is me, this fits me, then we get the best students we can get under that premise, and then I think we're all better off. And for people who want to do something different, let them go to a different school that fits them better.
So having it your way can get complicated if there's too many ways to have it.
No, I think having it your way and something like online and face-to-face is one thing. Having your way to have any particular choice, I think, is not good. So strategy is as much about what you don't do as it is about what you do, and most people forget about the don't do, and they just want to do the do.
So can folks comment on? I'm struck by sort of the seamless nature, DT, in light of what you just said. If we look at the seamless nature of our different MBA degrees, so full-time EMBA online, does that? I can see in a way, yes, that streamlines it at the face of it. So if I were a student, I could say, oh, I could do this, that, and that. I've got 3 different categories, but I can migrate between online, EMBA, full-time. But does that, so the policy of that, we understand it, but in practice, does that confuse students? And that's sort of what we wrestle with, because I hear what you're saying, and I agree.
I don't see the online and the regular MBA and exec MBA as somebody going back and forth. What I see for the exec, and that's where we're looking at it in particular, is that execs travel. Sometimes you have to travel when you're supposed to be having your class. If you do travel when you're having your class, you should be able to access your class online from wherever you are in the world, or even asynchronously if you have to. But to say that you can only be online or only be face-to-face, I think for that particular audience, I think in today's world that doesn't make a lot of sense. As far as with our regular MBA program, we do have an online offering. Mixing those two, I'm not sure is the same as doing it for the execs. Okay. But that's a thought. That's a thought.
Okay. Ira, you had it seemed like the sort of the seamless.
Ira, you're doing most of mix and matching. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we really do not mix and match the full-time with the professional and the online. We don't have something called an executive MBA. We call it a professional MBA and an online MBA. The nature of those students are such that they're all working full-time. Therefore, the experiences that they're getting in the field are similar. We see no problem in mixing and matching those two audiences because the pressures, the demands on their time are all very, very similar. The full-time students are different. Full-time students can be career changers. Full-time students potentially need a cohort of other students and a set of services that the professional students do not need. So it's only in the context of elective courses that they may be in a class with our professional students, but typically they're much more of a cohort. We too, Gary, are a relatively small program, probably almost identical, about 100 students in our full-time program. And so to us, we think that's a real value part of our program because those students get a lot of attention. The ability to get them the internship they need, the the
Right.
ability to get them the job they need, the ability to tell the student who wants to come and go into investment banking, DT, we tell them, don't come to our school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we're not the
We're
place.
not going to get you a
Right.
job on Wall Street at
Right.
Goldman. If you want that, go over to Duke.
Right. We say go to UR.
Right. So we know who we are. We know the type of student we can really engage and benefit. And therefore, I think it's very important that each of our schools, as AACSB tells us,
Right.
should have that mission to know who we are, what we can do, how we
Right.
can create value, and how students see the value from their
Yeah,
standpoint.
very good. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the different programs have different objectives. So if you don't have if you don't have an executive program, if you do have one, that's, it's only certain qualifications will fit into that category. If you have one for the students who are working, like going in the evening, that's a different type of student than your full-time students. So all of these are different student groups, and they don't necessarily mix and match well because you want to have different outcomes.
Yeah.
If they're already working, they might want to get promoted in their company. If they're not working and going full-time, they want to get a great job when they get out. And so it's slightly different. If they have experience, which executive MBAs have and your professionals have, that's different than the person who has no real experience. They worked at McDonald's for a couple of years and now they're coming to get their MBA.
Right. I think what nags at me a bit is if you go back to sort of the .com versus bricks and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
If you purchase something, say at BarnesandNoble.com, just not to pick on them, but you couldn't return it to the store.
Right.
So the same way I can see us having students saying, you mean I'm getting a Baylor MBA, but I can't take an online MBA class? And I have to say at this point, because the
Right.
launch is so new, you can't get there from here. We have some overlapping of markets,
Right.
but I'm just wondering if the behavior of that market is such that we're going to get that question, and if that's a demand of the customer, we're saying it's Baylor MBA.
Right.
We need to be able to say, yes, I think in practice we're not going to see that happening 50% of the time, but we may have 10%, but then I don't want to manage to the 10%
Right.
because the cost associated with that.
Right. So I think you have to really think about, we have a group, it's called the Innovation Learning Institute, that wants to have online courses at a discount. And so we're wrestling with this because we don't want to reduce the quality of what we're offering. We don't want cannibalization. And they're trying to, they created this group, so they have to justify their existence, of course. And for them, the world looks like everything should be online. They want to offer these deep discounts. So if I'm a student, paying to get my degree from Saunders College of Business, from RIT, and I'm paying whatever, and then these people are taking these courses and paying a fraction, that becomes an issue. But the problem is, from my perspective, and this is entre nous, senior management in academic institutions are not strategic. Most of them have never really worked. They don't think strategically. They don't think about second, third order consequences. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Unless you create a different degree. I think Maryland has a different degree for their online stuff. That's not the same. And unless you create that different degree, that's not worth the same. It's not worth the same. It's a different degree. Then you're going to get in trouble. And instead of solving the problem, they think they're going to get hordes of students taking these programs. What people don't think about is, what is the break-even point?
Yep.
And then we have people saying, well, if I'm teaching in the regular MBA program, and I get paid X to teach offload, I should get paid X to teach offload in this online thing. That might break that program because they're charging much less tuition. But people aren't, they're not thinking of these issues. It just never ceases to amaze me.
We are all going to be challenged, I think, going forward
Right.
in how we're pricing these programs.
Agreed.
Yeah.
To discount online programs when the technology you need to put into those programs, probably on an upfront investment, might be twice the cost of what it is to put on a face-to-face course,
Right.
is incredible. But the marketplace is going to challenge all of us. Just take a look at the Georgia Tech experience right now, where with subsidies from AT&T, they're offering a master's in engineering online at $7,000 to $10,000 that they charge on campus $40,000 to $50,000.
Right.
But they're getting some support from AT&T. But when that evaporates, we had a executive MBA program that was taught way before I came in Czechoslovakia, but it was subsidized by a major company, Anheuser-Busch, who put millions into that program, so we were able to offer it in a country where people don't generally pay to get their degrees. And it was a very good program, very successful program, but once the subsidies disappeared, Anheuser-Busch withdrew, there was no way we could support that program. So we really have to think very carefully about how online is going to work, and is it going to work? And are we going to be able to maintain the university that we think we have?
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it'll drive us to narrow our degree options. You know, in my mind, yes. I always think, well, sure, it'd be nice to offer a Master of Science and then fill in the blank. We're certainly close to the oil and gas business, energy business in Texas.
Yeah,
that makes sense. What are the costs? But then do we fracture what we're doing with just an array of? Goes back to, I think, DT, your comment on choices. So if I have a lot of choices, then what's my cost? Go back to break even. Right. And then are we really serving the marketplace, because our resource base is now spread so thinly across so many areas that we really can't build depth. So I wonder if our decisions then end up narrowing our degree offerings and moving toward depth. And I think all of this is a pendulum in a way. It'll swing one way and then kind of go back, and we'll try to achieve that balance. And I think that's what makes our jobs fascinating. I have a lot of energy for that, but I wonder what the future will be like.
I think part of it is, what student do we want to attract? Because I talk to students. A lot of students want to do something online, but they don't want their whole degree online. A lot of students, particularly undergraduate students, which are different than the MBA population. The undergraduate students do still want that face-to-face. Even if they decide they want to be face-to-face, but they may want to be in their dorm taking their course instead of trudging across campus to go to a classroom. So I think, you know, there are a lot of misapprehensions and a lot of mythology out there about what students want and don't want. So when you have to break the students into what population you're going to serve. There are some people who work and there's no way for them to get to campus, and they just want to do something online to get a degree for whatever, which may be very different than the population you're trying to attract. So I think we have to decide who we are, what we want, and then what do we need to do to stay in that space. So I think
one thing that I haven't heard any of us talk about yet, especially as we're talking about online technology, what the student wants, is how do we manage the faculty?
Yeah.
The fact that what the student wants today may not be the faculty that we have on board for the next 40 years.
Yeah. That's a big issue.
It also may not be the faculty's greatest talents to deliver online all things that the students want.
Right.
So we have some major challenges in managing the expectations of what we truly can deliver, given the nature of the faculty that we've brought on board.
Right. And we saw that recent study, I guess everybody's seen it, where they found out that the adjuncts and non-PhD faculty tend to deliver a better quality product than the PhD faculty, which is kind of interesting. But, you know, we have to remember this, is that our PhD programs, for the most part, do not train people in pedagogy. We have this sort of assumption you can, just because you got trained in research, you can roll out of your bed and teach well. And most people don't know how to teach well, and it becomes a process of learning. Hopefully they learn it. But, you know, there are a lot of things that go into this, and it's not a simplistic decision. It's actually fairly complex. But if you have a great teacher, that teacher may not be as great online as they are in face-to-face. Or the way to deliver face-to-face may be problematic.
Yeah, what we're starting to see early on, I don't want to overstate this, but I'm optimistic, is the spillover effect of online teaching into the face-to-face classroom.
Yeah.
I think, and a few of us have brought up, the technology associated with the online program is costly, but when the faculty member that's teaching, for example, negotiations, he also teaches in our EMBA program, but he's got the online course. So he's saying, well, I can use this in my regular EMBA course. So I'm looking for those kinds of things, that sort of discovery to emerge, and I think it will as well. But DT, I want to get back to that study. We've got to address that, and you know, I think you raise an excellent point. We could disregard that, and I'm glad you brought it up because I see we've got to go there, and you're going there. Those adjuncts, non-PhD experience, I get calls from a lot, say an alum, great career, they're maybe 55 to 65 years old, would be great in the classroom, have led people in organizations, and I'd like them in the classroom. And we've got PhD faculty that don't have skills in teaching, for example, just to take the broad population. We're working on that. We realize what you did, the pedagogy is not taught, and so as a result, we want to shore that up and then move that to excellence. But at the same time, there's a viable group of providers that are really, we can ignore that data, or we can say, wait, that's out there, and that has to influence what we do, and how's it go out for higher quality. So
Gary, let me
I'll
ask
pop in here real quick for a minute and tell you that as I listen to this discussion, the finance people have a word that's used that I think applies a lot here, and that's portfolio. And we talk about a portfolio of programmatic offerings in terms of when and how you take your classes. We talk about a portfolio of instruction. You need to have, the student needs to be exposed to the whole big picture. So there are PhD faculty who are at the leading edge of their discipline, and they're really flying high and hard, and the student needs to be able to see that. At the same time, as I've heard each of you say, there are practicing adjuncts who are out there right now in the real world, and they're teaching what they're doing, and the student needs to be exposed to that.
Right.
So we pull all of that together, and the challenge that I think we have is the marketplace remains unbelievably confused, and how we draw definitions of delivering this quality educational experience are huge. Gary mentioned what I would call technology-enhanced learning as in contrast with technology-delivered learning.
Yeah.
And so we take things and bring them into our traditional classrooms that use technology to do things we couldn't do 5 years ago.
The other thing we can look at is hybrid classes, which we actually double, and without doubling our plant, can double our throughput if we have 1 day in class and 1 day online, that type of thing. And that may be a way that we can get the benefits of both worlds.
I think that's where a lot of people are headed. I'm going to make sure we cover a couple of things because I see we're getting close to our stopping time. And so I have a couple of questions, and I'm not sure how to pose this. So first of all, it appears that the number of employers who are providing financial support for their employees to take MBA programs while they're working is shrinking. That's number one. I want you to react to that in your markets. And secondly, the economic recovery is happening, but boy, it sure is taking a long time. Do we see any change, any impact on enrollments of the recovery over coming years in MBA students? So,
we provide financial support. We provide financial support for our employees to get their degrees. I don't know if you can hear me. It sounds like
I can, but I'm hearing what you're hearing. That feedback.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we've continued that, although we have now put a little bit of limit on the number of hours that they can take. Because we had some people who were just taking courses and, not getting to degree completion. But we have that's one of the benefits, I think, of being an employee and it doesn't matter whether you're a low-level employee or or even a professor. They haven't capped it in terms of, like at Rutgers, you could take it if you were like a staff person, but you couldn't if you were a professor. And the other thing is that we allow people, we have an agreement with other schools, so you don't have to go to school. Your kids can go to school free, basically, well, tuition free. It's a set of schools that we have an agreement with. So those benefits continue. In terms of the economic recovery, I think for some people there's the economic recovery and for others not. Part of it, we're in the 5th poorest city in the nation. And some of the efforts we hope to do through our new Center for Urban Entrepreneurship is to make a difference there. But for people who have skills, who are highly skilled, who are skilled in areas that there's a demand for, they're experiencing no pain. It's the people who haven't kept up their skills or who have them in areas that are being curtailed that have the problem. and they need re-education. That's a role maybe that we can play as business schools, is to help people to retool with some short courses, some things to help them get into the market, and also teach people how to get into the market if they haven't, if they spend 20 years or 30 years in industry, they may not know how to get on the job market. So that's a role we can play in helping them to do that. And then our mission as an urban institution is to help folks in the urban community, so do some programs like entrepreneurship programs for people who've been left out of the economic recovery.
Okay, Gary, how about you? Employer support for students in the programs and
and I think of mainly our executive MBA program, where we saw that declining, and it seems to have stabilized. What we found, though, and it goes back, DT, what you're saying as well, the short course programs are very beneficial. Where those short course programs could turn into degree programs, we're finding that reimbursement for employers is interestingly focused on those short courses, and not on degree programs.
Right.
So if we can bring the student in and say, part of our mission, again, consistent with what everybody's saying, part of our mission is then how do we equip people so that they are up to date and really can add that future value as well. Mm-hmm. Here's a short course. We have Dallas and Austin-based executive MBA programs. So physicians, for example, with our healthcare concentration, how do we provide what content do they need in a short course that then may lead to our executive MBA in healthcare?
Yeah.
And so that's it. So I've noticed just general reimbursement. If I were to go back 10 years, I would say 80% of our EMBA students were reimbursed at close to 100%. Right. And flip that and make it a little bit worse, but I do see movement, and that's certainly optimistic. Enrollment seems to be stable and maybe a little bit on the uptick. Economically, overall, the state of Texas is doing well, but there are pocket areas that certainly are not. So we're always aware of that. But it's kind of shifting in the optimistic direction. One of the proxies here, very interesting and very quickly, is the housing market. And anecdotally, what we're hearing about the housing market in places like Dallas and Houston and Austin, those three in particular, is it is heating up beyond belief. So the stories have not yet surfaced where, again, anecdotally, somebody puts their house on the market, they get 12 offers within the first 2 hours. So there's something that's churning that then, I think, lag effect will move into our area. But we're starting to see that optimism.
Okay, Ira.
Yeah, so we have seen a dramatic shift in terms of company support for our professional MBA programs. I think today about 50% of our students get some form of reimbursement, but only about 15% of our students get full reimbursement. That's a significant shift from probably 5 years ago, when I think it probably was about 80% got partial and maybe up to 30 to 40% got full. And we see that trend continuing. We don't see it reversing. And I think the students understand that, and again, why that's very important to have what I call a value program, because if a student is looking at us at a cost of somewhere in the nature of $40,000 to $45,000 and are looking at a Kenan Flagler or Fuqua at a cost closer to $100,000, and a big piece of that is going to be on them, they have to determine what is the value proposition, what is the end game that they're going to be able to get out of that. As far as the enrollments, we're lucky. We are in a relatively healthy area. North Carolina in general is not healthy. The Research Triangle area is very healthy. Our enrollments are growing. We're at probably record numbers right now in our total MBA program. We expect those to continue to increase. We are putting a lot of emphasis on the online and the seamlessness between the online and the professional. We see that's where the real increase will be. We do not see the full-time increasing beyond basically the 100 students we probably have now. I think the real issue for full-time students is what's the ROI? Is the full-time MBA in which you basically pay $40,000, $45,000, you take away 2 years of work, what is that actual end game in terms of career and salary at the end of that program? Generally speaking, many students are looking for 100% ROI from where they came in at maybe 50, 55, 60,000. They're not getting it.
Yeah.
And therefore, the professional MBA, the online MBA, is becoming much more attractive because they do not lose their income over 2 years. Some organizations are rewarding them for the degree at the end of that time frame. But I think the economics of the full-time program is really pushing a number of students to rethink full-time versus part-time.
Listen, gentlemen, I have a faculty staff meeting, so I'm going to have to leave. It was a pleasure, and hope to see you guys at the next AACSB.
All right,
Thanks. Great meeting you, DT.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
Gentlemen, I think that if you listen to this discussion, as I have, there's a lot of similarities across all of our markets and our schools. And what's important in this is that each of us is figuring out a way to actually deliver full value. Ira, you mentioned a couple of your other competitors out there and where they are on the price range. It's got to be great to be able to offer a program that's comparable, but yet has that kind of advantage cost-wise. We have the same thing in our market. We have at least one competitor that's extremely high-priced, and we're significantly lower than that. And so that's where value comes into all of this, is how do you deliver a first-rate, top-quality MBA educational experience and yet make it comparable price-wise that delivers value. And all of us are working to do that. As we get ready to wrap this session up, I'm going to go in order again from Gary to Ira back to me. And is there anything new and exciting that you'd like to leave us with as we get to this point in your programs and your schools?
We are sure. One thing quickly. We've actually started an incubator, technology incubator. So there's an old tire factory that really sat there for years, just north of town here, and several 300,000 square feet. We were able to convert that in the last 2 years. Have opened that up. Have combined engineering with incubator space. So it's really a large think tank. Geographically in Central Texas, we're in a great spot. So we're within 90 miles of Boston, 100 miles of Dallas, 3 hours of Houston. 3 hours of San Antonio, so we're a great gathering place, and that certainly is one of the initiatives that's new and exciting. Now, something that would trump that is our new business school will be ready for us to move in during summer 2015, and that is also about a 300,000 square foot facility. Glad to say technology, because we're building it from the ground up. The ground is broken; it's on its way. Technology is a major discussion, as well as, again, providing how do we deliver full value and what does it mean to be a business school, bricks and mortar, in the future. And again, that gathering place, that notion of community based on our location is very important to us. So between the incubator and then the new business school building, this great time to be here.
That's exciting. Ira, can you top those?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could top them, but I'd like to talk about three things that I think are very interesting. One, going back to the short course issue, which both Gary and DT talked about, we are currently now doing a number of graduate certificates, trying to attract in a set of students who do not want a full MBA, but want 3 or 4 courses focused in a particular area. And then once they get that graduate certificate, which their employers are more inclined to pay for, all of those courses actually count towards the MBA if they want to come back and do the full MBA. The other thing aligned with that is a number of one-year master's courses. We have 3 of them right now. And the way we have positioned them is those are pre-experience courses. So students come in there directly out of undergraduate school. But then, if they go out and work for a couple of years and come back, those one-year master's courses actually take up the first year of the MBA. So the fact is, we're able to bring them back for the second year of the MBA, so we get value by providing them information very early in their career and then bringing them back in a way that allows them to use that but get the MBA later on in their career. Lastly, from an engagement side, probably very brand new, similar to what you have brand new going on, we're entering into a joint venture with our College of Design, and we're going to be offering a entrepreneurial clinic in downtown Raleigh. It's a walk-in clinic where our MBA students and their graduate design students are combining together to help budding entrepreneurs go really from ideation into really a business plan concept for commercialization.
Well, by golly, that's exciting from both of you, and there's no way I'm going to top that. A couple of things that are happening here. We have a very generous alumnus donor who's put forth multiple $100,000 into a scholarship program for a business concept competition. It's actually available to all the students in the university. We have graduate, undergraduate divisions. Multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. The student has to present it's really a 5-page, 20-minute business concept. We get judges that come in from the business world, and the winners get each $10,000 tuition scholarships. And we just started last year, and we've got 3 going businesses that have emerged from that. So that's pretty exciting.
That's great.
The other thing that we're doing is we're finding out that in our professional MBA programs, like each of you, one of the challenges has been taking the GMAT for people who are in their 30s trying to figure out how skilled they are at test taking. And so we're going to offer an option that allows people to not take the GMAT if they wish, and we have found a software package that focuses on the mathematical skills necessary, the quantitative skills necessary to succeed the program. And it's a very inexpensive offering. They take it, they get a self-paced study, they get an exam at the end, and if they score a particular score on this exam, which is 80% or better, we will count that in lieu of the GMAT. So we're looking at different ways to open the door for people who have the demonstrated skills and experience and sometimes are challenged by some of these other pieces. So that's what we're doing. I want to thank each of you, including DT, who had to step off, for your participation today. I'm truly honored that you could join us for this inaugural virtual Dean's Roundtable, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I have.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ira.
No, I say sure have. I thank you for having us. I thank you for doing this. I think it's a great way, as I've said to some of my colleagues coming back from San Francisco, our Dean's Conference has gotten so huge that it's very difficult to speak to colleagues from around the country as you can't find them. This 1 hour together has been, in some ways, much more useful than some of the hallway dialogue I had in San Francisco.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris, for doing this. Echoing Ira, this is fantastic, and I think each of us is leaving with a set of ideas and thoughts that we're gonna churn on and get some stuff done. So again, it's an exciting time, and I think you see and you hear the excitement from each of us as we go forward. So it's great time to do what we're doing, and thanks for arranging this. It's no small task, so I appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to do it, and I'll close by wishing everyone happy spring, because I know it's coming.
That's right, it is.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Good to see you.